Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. Welcome to today's webinar, which is titled How to Use Your Salesforce Data, using Salesforce Gamification to Improve Sales Performance. My name is Richard Dumas. I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. Just a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. We are recording the webinar, and after the session you'll receive an email with a link to the recording. So you can watch it at any time after in case you miss anything. Please also forward it to anyone else in your organization who might be interested in gamification or might be interested in this topic. Also, you'll see on your screen there's a Q&A window, so we'll be taking questions at the end of the presentation. Please feel free to type in any questions you may have. And you'll also see a link that has a number of different attachments and links. So we've uploaded quite a few interesting documents, several white papers on gamification, pre-recorded demo videos, and other materials which you might find to be interesting, so please take a look at that. So just to get started, I'd like to welcome John Flynn to the webinar. We're very privileged to have John here with us today. As a senior sales engineer, John brings over 30 years of call center experience to NewVoiceMedia. John's worked in sales and engineering roles at a wide array of telephony and call center companies, including Aspect, Rome, IBM, Witness Systems, Verint, NICE, and Utopia. It's quite a list. Welcome, John.
Thanks, Richard.
And before I hand it over to John, I just want to go through a quick overview of NewVoiceMedia. I know we may have a number of existing customers on the webinar, but I'm sure there are also some people who are new to NewVoiceMedia. So we're a leading provider of cloud contact center and inside sales software, giving sales and service organizations the ability to instantly connect their agents to prospects and customers over the phone, through email, and via social channels. Our mission is to connect everything you know about your customer to every conversation you have with them. And by doing that, we enable you to improve the quality of your sales calls and ultimately convert more prospects into sales opportunities. And as you'll see depicted on the screen, our intelligent communications platform connects our communications infrastructure with your customer data for your contact center and across other applications that you may use within your business. Our platform is enterprise-grade, includes everything you need to run your call center and integrated into a single solution deployed and managed in the cloud. It's truly global. We enable you to deploy call center operations in over 100 countries, so wherever you do business or wherever you may be planning to do business in the future, we can help you provide sales and service operations there. Our platform is extremely reliable, which is important because you don't want your sales reps or agents to miss calls, and we guarantee 99.999% availability. It's also extremely easy to use and manage, so it's easy to use for your agents and supervisors, and it's easy for your administrators to manage, which makes them less reliant on IT to make changes, whether it's adding a new user, creating new campaigns, or making changes to things like call routing. And finally, it's very fast and easy to deploy. You can get up and running in a matter of days and not months. NewVoiceMedia is also the most highly rated telephony application on the Salesforce App Exchange, with over 260 reviews and a perfect 5-star rating. So as part of our sales and service solutions, we offer a gamification application called Motivate that helps your sales and service agents become more productive. And that is the topic of today's webinar. So I will hand the webinar over to John, who will dive into the details and show you how you can actually use gamification within your sales organization. Over to you, John.
Okay, Richard, I appreciate that intro. And just a housekeeping item, did the slide change to just kind of a general blue slide with the title?
Yes, it did.
Yes. Okay, good. So I appreciate the time with everyone today. I want to try to take you through relatively quickly the framework for our product called Motivate, which is essentially a behavioral change, behavioral analytics play. We do leverage gamification rather heavily to do that, but at the end of the day, the goal is uncovering top performance of your top performers and being able to encourage and replicate that throughout your organization. So while the gamification in my mind is interesting, it's really a means to an end, and the end being the performance improvement of your contact center. So having said that, when you look at performance improvement across organizational boundaries, really what you're trying to do is shift the entire performance of all the population, as opposed to just focusing on your top performers or your lowest performers and trying to impact them. You're really trying to shift the entire curve of performance, so positively impacting all of the different personality types and performance profiles that you have across your agent population. And when you do that, organizationally, then you really get to realize the largest amount of impact on your KPIs. So when you look at any example, and I have a couple examples that are kind of service-oriented and a couple that are sales-oriented, but I think you'll get the point, which is that, the processes in your business have a certain outline to them. They have a certain cadence. There's a certain set of things and steps and phases that these go through. And along the way, there's also key performance indicators, the way that you're trying to measure and manage and understand the health of those individual processes, those individual deals, those individual opportunities as they're moving through your business. And as I mentioned, it is KPI driven, and many of you probably spend a lot of time on your monitoring your KPIs. But the KPIs are interesting in the sense that they are measurements of events at a moment in time. And so it kind of doesn't give you the full visibility into the cadence or the rhythm or the combination or the timing of some of these things. And part of what Motivate helps you to do is to complement your system of record information from Salesforce with some insight about the how and the why these individual things happened or didn't happen. And once you start to understand the how and the why, you can then start to encourage behavior replication of those good behaviors and elimination of those bad behaviors. So there's a lot to be said about the different cadence and the rhythm about how these things actually occur within your processes. So just a couple of examples. Now, the other thing that's interesting and you discover is that your top performers typically find ways to innovate around your processes. So they find complementary things to do. They find shortcuts that aren't necessarily published or widely known. But typically, they're always the ones to innovate and complement the processes that you have. So to the extent you can uncover that innovation and, again, encourage it within your wider population, you have the opportunity to reap the enhancements that that kind of behavior can bring forward. So really what Motivate for Salesforce do is it leverages game mechanics to help you drive behavioral change, positive behavioral change within your organization, utilizing a series of different gamification mechanics, so things like achievements and rewards and different levels of performance, challenges, whether those are targeted or ongoing, publish leaderboards to encourage the right kind of behavior. When you really put a wrapper around all of this and present it in an organized way, it helps drive positive change within your business. And we'll take you through a little bit about what this looks like, both from a slide perspective, but more importantly, I want to jump into the product at the back half of this hour. So essentially, within your operation, there are things that you're trying to get to happen, and achievements could be the way that you actually define those requirements within your Salesforce system, as well as you have the opportunity to include things outside of the system. But things that the system can automatically track and understand completion rates and what have you, you can create achievements around either one-time accomplishments or things that have to happen over a period of time. And the motivation assessment engine essentially automatically in the background is looking at everybody's digital footprint, if you will, throughout the application and rewarding them when they are doing the things you want them to do, such as, add 5 leads a day or, move opportunities from one pipeline stage to another over time. So those things are automatically tracked and rewarded as appropriate. And people have access to a large range of pre-built behaviors and best practices. The system comes with 150 straight out of the box, so you're not trying to reinvent the wheel here. You're trying to take advantage of the experience that we've had about, well, what are some of the common things that all high-achieving organizations and sales teams actually do? And we've built a series of achievements and rewards around those behaviors and activities. You also have the ability to engage your folks through a series of challenges. So challenges can be ongoing, so you may have ongoing quarterly performance challenges that I would imagine make sense in sales organizations, typically oriented around revenue achievement, or if you're pushing a certain product within your portfolio or things of that nature. But you can also have more targeted challenges. So you can set up competitions that are either time-based or when they reach a certain value expire. So you've got the ability to kind of intermingle some targeted spiffs within your overall motivation framework, as well as some ongoing longer-term development efforts that you're wanting your people to undertake. System actually tracks and keeps track of what it calls experience points. So as you accumulate different reward levels, in this particular example, we're utilizing a mountain theme. So, we've conquered smaller mountains, and this particular individual is at the Mount Everest level, which is the highest level of achievement for this particular theme. But we'll show you where you can use different themes within your organization to try to tie into things that make sense for the culture of your company. So, of course, you have different levels within the theme. So this is the mountaintop level that I mentioned. I believe Everest is indicated here, and there's a host of different mountains that you need to traverse and conquer before you get to the next level. So within gamification, the concept of leveling is an important way to keep folks engaged, keep them continuing to pursue the next set of challenges and rewards that you're wanting them to pursue. As I mentioned, there's a series of different themes that come out of the box with the product, so you can orient it around mountain themes, around different animal species, certain villains, or Hollywood stars, things of that nature. So it's kind of a fun way to keep folks, engaged in pursuing the things that you want them to pursue. Mentioned competitions. There's a wizard-based capability to create competitions. So they have the ability to be targeted to specific individuals that you invite, or to a group of people based on their administrative assignment within the system. Group competitions are really designed to motivate your users across a much broader range of behaviors, typically are ongoing type of things. Targeted competitions motivate folks around some more specific short-term goals. So this could be quarterly spiffs, it could be an initiative to do more cold calling or more opportunity development, or whatever it happens to be. And I got one or two slides, and then we'll be able to jump into the product itself. The user profile page has a wealth of information about where people stand in terms of their performance against the overall set of objectives, what their current level is, where they may stand within a given competition that's being that they're included in. So good summary page where they can understand where they stand within the organization and against the different incentive programs that you have out there. So there's also a sidebar summary component. So within the overall user interface, the NewVoiceMedia phone contact pad is oriented in the upper left if you're in a classic view of Salesforce. And right underneath there are some of the summary items for the Motivate behavioral improvement program. So things like, what is their overall level? Are there a couple of different promoted achievements? Because we will show you how you have the ability to actually promote certain behaviors right within the object of Salesforce that it involves. So if it's something to do with leads, when they're in the lead screen, it'll prompt them with a digital motivator to say, hey, do these three things, and you'll achieve what we're trying to get done. So this is where those digital nudges will show up. So here is essentially what you want the folks to do, and if they accomplish that thing, then this is the reward that they win. And you'll notice it's context sensitive. It's right within the lead object. So as you create certain behaviors and activities, the system is always context sensitively reminding people to try to get them completed and move forward. Lastly, you have the ability to include it in some social feeds. So if you have chatter enabled, you have the ability to post completion of different activities, rewards, or challenges up to your leaderboard, and you have some flexibility about how often you do that, whether that's a weekly, daily, monthly type of activity. So you can engage it to whatever level makes sense for your organization. The system has a full set of reports and dashboards available. All of the Motivate data is stored natively within Salesforce. As a matter of fact, one of the key differentiators for the product is it is native to the Force platform within Salesforce. So any object or field, customer standard within the Salesforce universe has the ability to be reported on, to be included in the various competitions and wallboards that you might want to create showcasing different performance. So as I mentioned, you have the ability on your within your call centers to have kind of leaderboards on big screen TVs in your shop, and we've got a few interesting themes available. So closest to the pin, who's going to club, whole host of customizable things that you can do here, and I'll show you how quick and easy you can actually get access to a leaderboard and create some compelling content on that. And then the final thing is something we call insight. So all of this behavioral information that we're gathering, which is essentially complementing the event-driven KPIs that Salesforce is gathering and is trying to help provide you with more insight into the how and the why of what has happened, is a module we call Insight. So it gives you the ability to surface up the behavior of some of your top achievers, and I'll actually show this in the live product, but essentially a kind of a cadence map. So it gives me an idea of not only are people doing those things that I want them to do, but when specifically are they doing them? And is there a difference between when my top performers are doing them versus my bottom performers? And if there is, what can I do to help encourage those bottom performers to start to behave more like my top performers? So I'll show you what that looks like. Pretty good insight. Also gives you some nice insight into what we call pipeline believability. So when you're looking at the opportunities that you have, there are certain behaviors that typically precede the closure of a solid deal for your company. And to the extent that you capture what those are, it helps you understand what opportunities you need to focus on within your pipeline to help bring them across the line, as opposed to those that are already in good shape and might not necessarily need the extra management attention that some of the more needy ones should get. So having said that, I'm going to just turn this back to Richard to just summarize this, and then I'll jump into the actual product demo and show you how this actually looks in a real-world environment.
Thanks, John. So as you can see on this slide, we're often asked what makes NewVoiceMedia unique. NewVoiceMedia is a proven true cloud solution, and what that means to you is that there's nothing installed in your organization, no hardware, no software, not even a browser plugin. We're a true cloud solution that lives within Salesforce as a managed package. We're also a proven cloud solution. We've been providing our clients cloud-based solutions since 2000 and have grown our telephony network to a global scale with telecom nodes in North America, Europe, Singapore, and Australia. This allows us to provide a truly global solution with follow-the-sun capabilities and a truly reliable network. And as I said earlier, we offer an uptime guarantee of 99.999% availability. NewVoiceMedia also manages the carrier relationships for you. We have a provisioning team and a 24/7/365 network operations center to monitor and maintain our global network. We use carrier aggregation, which means that we do not rely on one or two carriers globally. We have relationships with many different global carriers. So if one of them should go down, our operations team is tracking that, and they can flip the switch to another carrier to reduce any impact of service interruptions. And we also understand the importance not only of uptime, but of voice quality. No matter how our clients' calls are routed, it's always based on the most optimized route to provide the best quality. We never route using a least cost routing model. And we're also constantly upgrading our network to continually improve our solution. So there's actually never a maintenance window and no downtime for our clients. And NewVoiceMedia is also secure and compliant. We manage our clients' data and call recordings on our own platform. Both the data and the call recordings are encrypted. You can also implement a secure data connection between NewVoiceMedia's data centers and your facilities using MPLS, SIP, or VPN. And as I spoke about a little bit earlier in the presentation, we offer an intelligent communication platform for both inbound and outbound activities. We're device agnostic. It allows our clients to use any telephony platform they prefer with any desktop or soft phone they prefer. And we also support communications via web RTC, allowing us to deliver phone calls over the public internet. We integrate with Salesforce Omnichannel and Live Agent Chat, which will allow you the flexibility to manage communications on the channels that your customers prefer. And our solution can be tailored to customize the experience to that of our clients' customers based on data within Salesforce. So whether it's VIP routing based on language, or routing based on the number dial, we can accommodate that level of customization and much more through our integration with Salesforce. And finally, we have a very strong Salesforce advantage. There is no solution more tightly integrated with Salesforce, and that's reflected in our perfect 5 out of 5 star App Exchange rating. We have seamless UI integration that makes our user interface very familiar for our clients and helps to promote Salesforce adoption within the organization. And finally, we're a Platinum ISV partner, and the only Platinum ISV partner that manages both inbound and outbound interactions with Salesforce integration. So NewVoiceMedia is a trusted, proven, true cloud solution that can enable the best possible experience for your organization and for your clients. So that's just a quick overview of sort of why NewVoiceMedia, and I'll hand it back to you for the demo now, John.
Okay, Richard, I appreciate that. I'm going to share my screen here and keep my fingers crossed that everything works as it should. What am I seeing here? Do you guys see a NewVoiceMedia screen on the panel right now?
Yeah. Your screen.
Excellent.
John.
Okay, good. So this is the Motivate module within Salesforce. Essentially, I've got my profile page up here and wanted to show you that you have the ability to kind of view the summary of how you're doing with regard to the overall program. So this is what's called my trophy cabinet, and these are all the different little badges and achievements that I have accrued over time. And this is my overall experience level within the larger confines of the competition. So I'm at the Mount Everest, which is the highest level, and you can kind of see here where I rank within the organization. I have the ability to tab through some information about myself. So what are the different rewards that I have been given? I can kind of view those as little cards or in an exhaustive list, but it goes through all the different achievements and things that have been awarded to me and when I actually received those awards. The Achievements tab is a way to kind of keep track of some of the things that are still open to you that you haven't spent a lot of time on. So I really need to do a better job of making 30 inbound calls a day. I haven't really been that good at doing that. You can see this is giving me that indication. And there is a digital nudge down here that kind of gives me some additional encouragement that that's something that's still open and available and I need to spend some time on. So this will actually start to fill in over time as you take care of the different achievements that have been assigned to you. You'll start to kind of fill your buckets, if you will, fill your circles, and they will start to progress as you go off and do those things. A couple other things to point out here. I mentioned the competitions and challenges. So this is where you have the ability to kind of look at the different competitions that are out there. So we have several that are going on worldwide. Asia Pacific, a UK-based one. This is the US-based competition, and of course you get to see the leaderboard and where different people stand with regard to that. I wanted to go on. I'm not going to go through every single functionality. The product is pretty detailed and really well thought out at the detail level. So everything builds upon achievements, build into accomplishments, build into levels, build into the next level. So it is very comprehensive in that regard. As I mentioned, you do have the ability to include challenges that might include things outside of Salesforce. So maybe if I'm one of the top sales reps, maybe I'm challenged to do a lunch and learn where I go over the way I present our products to folks. So I can sign up for that challenge and then indicate in the system that I've accomplished it. And even though it's outside of what something Salesforce would measure, it could be included in a competition or a challenge where I would get some credit for that. As we go into the different administrative options, we've got the ability through the gallery that comes preloaded with a whole bunch of different badges. It's very easy to extend these badges. So with typically with either bitmap or other types of artistic artwork, you can extend the 1500 badge library, and you have the ability to kind of search within the overall library for different monikers. So maybe if you're trying to create a certain theme or what have you, you can kind of narrow that down. And you notice there's a whole list of different categories that come right out of the box with different types of themes and images that you can utilize. Within the actual administration of Motivate, this is where you'll actually set the different kind of level set. So if you noticed here, we have this mountain range theme is one that is enabled. So in our organization, we're utilizing mountains, and then you get to decide what's the first level, what's the top level, and then there's a subsequent build-out phase where you actually define all of that. But I did want to show you also the concept of some of these leaderboards. So within all of the various competitions and capabilities, you have the ability to set various leaderboards and then present them in your call center. And they can be configured utilizing what's called channel configuration. So on a given TV screen, you can cycle through a series of different views that may provide certain metrics and performance capabilities in real time that you want to show your folks. So as a simple example, I came up with one called Sales Activity and Revenue. And what the purpose of it was to showcase how many outbound calls reps are making in the center, how many inbound calls they were receiving. I also wanted to see what the average handle time of the different types of transactions were. And then I also had a channel, the third channel it flips to, which is the revenue close for the given month. So this might be a way that I'm managing my reps to say how many outbound calls you're making, how many inbound calls are you receiving, and how much business are you closing. And so that encompasses not only just telephony data from NewVoiceMedia, but certainly the revenue and opportunity closed information is native of Force.com data. So shows a good example of how we're incorporating data from multiple sources. Very easy to go in, so you've got the ability to add logos and backgrounds and different color schemes if in fact you wanted to do all those things. You go to the next part of the wizard, and this is where you'll actually define the active content for your different channels. So I decided inbound calls, outbound calls, and closed revenue. And once you make those definitions, you actually just go in and configure utilizing a wizard. And as I mentioned, all of the Salesforce fields, objects, whether they're custom, whether they're standard, are all available within this tool to be reported on. So we created a simple thing that showed the different agents, how many inbound calls, and then what was the average talk time. I could very easily go back and we could look at the next row, which is the same situation except it's going to be outbound calls, what the average talk time was. And then lastly, you said show us all of your opportunities where it was closed won, and how many deals were there, and then what's the cumulative sum of money for that month. So when you take a look at what that looks like in your call center, you'll get a series of cascading views that show the inbound calls handled by the group. The next channel it will go to is the outbound calls, and then finally it will go to the revenue. So that's kind of a neat way to kind of take some of the motivation and bring it outside the system and make it public and make it fun and make it visible by everybody. So let's get back into another part of our, because I did want to show you the insight. This is, I think, one of the more valuable parts of all of the data and journey behavior that the system gathers. The insight module, to me, is the most usable. So here's an example trying to kind of provide some insight. So these are the activities that you've indicated are important for your sales team. And then based on importance to them, they've been weighted with different things. Obviously, adding 5 opportunities is more important than collaborating and sharing. And so you have a way to you can actually weight these so that the sum of the experience points reflects the weighting and the importance of those individual items. You have the ability to look at all your users across all of your different metrics, or more importantly, you might decide that you want to kind of drill down into some of your top performers. So I happen to know that Betsy and Simon are my hot shots, and let's see what they're doing in terms of adding opportunities and closing the business. So on an ad hoc basis, I can decide to look at different metrics and different people juxtaposed to those metrics to see how they're performing. And one of the neat things that I can discover then is what kind of sales cadence are these folks operating on, meaning not only are they doing the update the lead and make the 5 new calls and advance opportunities from lead generation to solid opportunity, but when are they doing them? So across the whole week, I start to get a visual picture of their sales cadence, and that really starts to give me an insight. Bethany comes in and hammers it on Monday, and she really sets herself up for a good week, and that's why she's outperforming some of the other folks. And I also notice she tends to kind of finish up pretty strong. So whatever it is she's doing, that cadence, that rhythm of activities that she's doing is being more successful with our prospects and clients, and that's the kind of behavior I want to try to start emulating and getting the rest of our folks to adopt. The pipeline believability, another kind of good slice of information here. So as you start to track your different opportunities across the different thresholds and milestones that they should go through to become a good qualified opportunity for your business, you can start to assign point values when those things occur. So, have we had 2 face-to-face meetings, and were there certain other things accomplished? And as those things are done, you can accumulate the points. Your experience probably tells you that I need to have at least 250 points for a deal to be pretty solid based on our experience. And so as a sales leader, as a sales manager, I can go into this pipeline believability and say, okay, I've got some early stage deals here, so they're in pipeline. I'm not going to worry too much about those. But this best case series, and certainly my committed deals, if I see things that are less than 250, things like this particular deal, or this deal, or this deal, these would be the things as a manager that would keep me up at night and would be the things that I would be investigating with my reps. I don't necessarily need to spend as much time on those opportunities that have all of the right outcomes and right stages that they went through, because experience has shown when we do all these things, we typically win these deals. So as a leader, this now gives me some very good real-time information about what should I go focus on to help drive improvement in the business. That's a real powerful addition to some of the things that you likely are utilizing to manage your KPIs within Salesforce natively. Trying to think of what other things. I mean, that's a good high-level start. I could drill down into the minutia of this, but I'm trying to resist that temptation. Just trying to keep at the right high-level success message, give people an understanding for the types of tools that are available within the toolkit, and maybe leave some time for some question and answer as to how you might typically roll out something like this in your environments.
Hey, John, it looks like we have a couple of questions coming through. And anyone else in the audience who has questions, go ahead and type them in the Q&A window. So let's see. Can all of this be displayed on some sort of wall board?
Yes. So just get back to the part where I was here. So where I was in this particular wallboard, this is actually a wallboard display. So you would just Inspire is the part of the product that actually gives the wallboard capability, and it's basically just a large screen TV that you're pushing this information out to.
Okay, thanks. So there's another question. Are we motivating reps to use Salesforce more or to produce actual results, more calls, more conversions, etc.?
So we're measuring the activities through Salesforce. So to some extent we are incenting them to utilize Salesforce more, but for the exclusive purposes of accomplishing the objectives. So it's not necessarily just to check off the activities, but hopefully, and certainly some of the incentives can be tied to future stage development of those opportunities. So while there's certain things I can say I do, I made 5 more phone calls or I added 5 more leads, at some point if I'm not closing business and I've attached a reward value to closing business, that's going to become apparent in my performance.
Great. Thanks, John. Let's see, we've got a couple more. It looks like we have an existing customer who uses ContactWorld for sales, and they're asking how do they add the Motivate functionality to ContactWorld for sales?
It's a pretty simple addition. It's a managed package that I think there's potentially, I got to look, it's 3 or 4 days of professional services, soup to nuts, includes all setup, training, the whole program to get it going. And certainly the account manager can help sort through what that looks like specifically for that customer.
Okay, great, thank you. Here's kind of another related question, and it says, do I need to use ContactWorld in order to use Motivate?
You actually don't, because it operates on all native Force.com objects and fields. So while we certainly are thrilled about environments where we're not a part of it, we don't have to technically be a part of it. It'll work in any native Salesforce environment.
Great, thanks, John. Let's see, we've got another multi-part question coming in. There's three questions in one. Okay, is the user profile page viewable to management only or to the reps as well?
So the rep gets to see their own profile page, but not the profile pages of others. So as a user, as John Flynn agent, I would get to see this. Okay, that was part 1.
Part 2 is, does the sidebar summary component work in Service Cloud as well?
It does, yes. So I can... just trying to think, best company. I'm trying to think. It does. It works in either Service Cloud or Sales Cloud, and you see it here. It's my best company service environment, and I've got the sidebars down here with the promotions. And I think I did want to show you just the one that I'm going to quickly see if I've got any digital nudging that's going.
Who is interested in seeing gamification for service? We also have a recorded on-demand webinar that shows you how you can use it for service and support agents. If you just go to our website under resources and look at on-demand webinars, you can find that one as well.
Good point, Richard. And here's an example of when I'm in a lead environment, it actually gives me the context sensitive. So here are a couple things that I can do specific to managing leads where I can get some more reward, and I can start to exhibit the behavior over time that the company wants me to do with regard to my lead management.
Great, thank you. And then the third part of the question is, does the real-time leaderboard work without an office TV? I guess the opposite of the earlier question.
So you can view it just like I'm doing, because I'm basically viewing it on a computer here. So you don't have to have the TV, but it's typically oriented for, I guess what I would say, a common display. You know, this display's a little bit wasted on just one person, but you can do it either way.
Great, thanks, John. Let's see, another question here. Which incentives generally produce the best results for sales teams?
So I might have to take that offline. I don't have something right off the top of my head. I'd have to go back and look at some of our success stories. I know that Six-Pack Shortcuts had some interesting insight as to what they were able to improve, and I think for them it may have just been the number of qualified calls they were able to make. But obviously if we can drive up the number of qualified calls over time, we can drive up the number of conversions as well. But I would have to do a little bit of looking to see more specifically.
I think part of what we've seen, perhaps you agree with this, is that quite often you realize that financial rewards aren't the only or necessarily the best motivational tool, and what you get with Motivate is the ability to provide other kinds of incentives to the teams, a lot of them around just the idea of healthy competition and providing visibility on how they perform within the group or against their peers. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. Because comp plan typically drives a lot of behavior, and it is highly, money-oriented or compensation-oriented. So this becomes an additional tool in the toolbox to encourage behavior with some different outcomes.
And I think what I saw you demonstrate earlier was also this idea of being able to uncover what the habits are of the most successful sales or inside sales reps, and then try to incentivize other team members to replicate that behavior.
Right. So one of kind of the best practices that we've learned many times when we go in and implement Motivate is that we put it on what we call stealth mode for the first 30 to 60 days. And that's where we go through a period of turning different achievements on or off and see what kind of performance the organization is delivering as kind of a baseline. It helps us do two things. Once we've identified the top performers, we can start to hone in on some of the behaviors that they do that might be unique to them, maybe that nobody even knew was happening. And then the other thing is to just make sure that we have a good baseline of steady state data, so that when we start making changes or doing things, we have a baseline from which to measure our improvement.
Okay, thanks, John. I have one more question here, and so if anybody else in the audience has more questions, go ahead and type them in now. I think you covered part of this, but does it operate on any object within Salesforce?
It does. So any object within Salesforce is a candidate to be reported on, to be operated on as a Motivate object.
Okay, it looks like that's all the questions we had for now. So I guess we'll just go ahead and wrap up. Again, for all of you, I encourage you to share the recording with anyone else in your organization who might be interested, and also to look at the attachments and links. John also mentioned one of the case studies, Six-Pack Shortcuts, and they're an internet retailer. We're actually going to be doing a webinar with them, so be on the lookout for that, and they'll be drilling down specifically on how they used gamification to produce some of the results that they were able to achieve. So using both ContactWorld for Sales and Motivate together, they were able to cut training time down from 3 to 4 months to 3 to 4 weeks. They were able to increase the average number of calls made each month from just over 10,000 to 62,000, which is really an incredible improvement, and increase the deals closed per day by 127%. And that case study and video and everything is all on our website as well if you just go through and look under the Customers tab. So with that, looks like we don't have any more questions. Thank you, everyone, for attending, and thank you, John, for this presentation and demo. It was very well done and very informative. Thank you. And,
okay, thanks, everyone.
For joining. Okay, bye-bye now.